That call shattered me. It was 11:47 p.m. when my phone rang and my daughter's voice, normally calm, confident, impossible to break, was shaking so badly she could barely breathe. I'm at the police station. My stepdad hit me. But now he's telling them I attacked him. And they believe him. My world stopped. I grabbed my keys, ran out the door and prayed she was safe. But when I reached the station, the officer on duty looked at me, pale, shaken, almost guilty. "I'm sorry," he whispered. I had no idea. That's when I realized something far worse was happening. Stay with us. This amazing story will leave you speechless. Before we get started, hit like, share and subscribe and drop your location in the comments. I've received phone calls that made my heart race before. Work emergencies, family news, even the occasional midnight wrong number. But nothing, absolutely nothing, prepared me for the call that came at 11:47 p.m. that night. I was half asleep on the couch, the TV still flickering, when my phone buzzed violently against the wooden table. At first I didn't even check the screen. I just assumed it was another notification. But then it buzzed again, and something inside me told me to look. It was my daughter. Her name flashing at that hour felt wrong, like the universe was warning me. I answered immediately, already sitting up. "Lily? Everything okay?" There was no greeting, no breath, no pause, just panic. Pure trembling panic. "Dad, I'm at the police station." Those words slapped the sleep straight out of me. I stood up without realizing it, heart hammering, mind spiraling. "What happened? Are you hurt? Talk to me." Her breathing crackled through the phone. Sharp, uneven, the kind that comes right after crying too hard. "Dad, he hit me." For a split second the world stopped moving. I didn't even breathe. "Who?" I whispered, but I already knew. I already felt the rage building inside my chest. "My stepdad," she choked out. "But now he's saying I attacked him. And they believe him." I grabbed my keys with shaking hands. My voice dropped low, calm, controlled, the way it only gets when I'm seconds away from exploding. "Lily, listen to me. Stay where you are. I'm coming right now." She tried to explain, words spilling out too fast to process. "Dad, I didn't touch him. I swear." He was yelling and then he grabbed me and I tried to get away and, "Dad, they won't listen. They think I'm lying." Hearing that broke something inside me. My daughter. My quiet, gentle, soft-spoken girl. Being treated like a criminal while the man who hurt her walked free? I couldn't accept it. I ran to my car, barely locking the house, barely breathing. Every second felt like an hour. I could hear her sniffling on the phone, trying to stay strong, trying not to fall apart again. "I'm scared, Dad," she whispered. "I know, sweetheart," I said, speeding out of the driveway. "But I'm on my way. And I'm not letting anything happen to you. Not tonight. Not ever again." She didn't respond. But her quiet, shaky exhale told me everything. She finally felt safe, because she knew her dad was coming. The road to the police station had never felt so long. I'd driven it 100 times before. Traffic tickets, community meetings, even that one time Lily forgot her wallet at the front desk. But that night, every red light felt personal. Every slow car felt like an obstacle placed there to test my patience. My hands were locked on the steering wheel, knuckles white, jaw clenched so tight it hurt. The only sound in the car was my heart pounding like I was running a marathon while sitting still. Street lights blurred through my windshield as I sped through the quiet town. The world outside looked calm, peaceful, sleeping. But inside me a storm was ripping me apart. I replayed Lily's voice over and over, the way she struggled to speak, the fear buried between her breaths. She'd never called me like that before. Never shaken. Never broken. I kept imagining her sitting alone in a cold station room, bruised, exhausted, terrified, while the man who hit her walked around calm, collected, lying through his teeth. The thought made something primal rise inside me. I should have seen the signs. That was the thought that kept stabbing me with guilt as I sped down the empty road. Her last few visits she had seemed distant, tired, almost haunted at times. I chalked it up to school stress, teenage mood swings, anything except the truth. But now everything lined up like puzzle pieces I had refused to look at. Why didn't she tell me sooner? Why didn't I ask harder questions? Why did I trust that she was fine just because she said she was? Then came the next thought, one that twisted my stomach tighter. Her mother. I knew my ex-wife could be stubborn, defensive, blind to anything that threatened her picture-perfect second marriage. Lily must have felt trapped, afraid to speak up in a house where her truth could be dismissed. I gripped the wheel tighter, fighting the anger rising inside me. My phone buzzed on the passenger seat. Another message from Lily. Please hurry. That small text nearly killed me. She was holding on, counting on me, and I couldn't fail her again. I pushed the gas harder. By the time the glowing blue sign of the station appeared ahead, my pulse was racing so fast it felt like it might burst. I pulled into the lot, slammed the car door behind me, and ran toward the entrance with one thought consuming every part of me. I wasn't just going to get my daughter. I was going to uncover the truth, no matter who tried to bury it. The sliding glass doors of the station opened with a dull hiss, and the cold fluorescent lights flooded over me as I stepped inside. The place was quiet, too quiet for a night filled with the kind of storm my daughter had just described. A lone officer sat behind the front desk, typing slowly, his expression neutral. But the moment he looked up and saw me, something in his face changed. His fingers froze above the keyboard. Are you Lily Carson's father? He asked, voice suddenly tight like he already regretted the question. Yes, I said, stepping forward quickly. Where is she? Is she hurt? What's going on? The officer swallowed hard, stood up and leaned over the counter as if lowering his voice would soften the blow. But nothing could soften what came next. Sir, I'm sorry. I had no idea. No idea? That phrase made my stomach twist. What do you mean you had no idea? I demanded. Where is my daughter? I want to see her. He looked down for a second, gathering himself before speaking. When she first came in, she was shaken up, crying, and her stepfather came in right after her. He said she attacked him, that he was just defending himself. He was calm, collected, convincing. The officer's jaw tightened. We separated them, took statements, and, sir, I'm going to be honest. His version sounded more controlled than hers. I felt heat rising in my chest. You believed him? I asked, struggling to keep my voice steady. He didn't answer. His silence was answer enough. I should have looked closer, he continued quietly. I thought it was a domestic argument blown out of proportion. But when the bruising became visible under the brighter lights, when she started shaking uncontrollably, when she couldn't even stand without leaning on the chair, he shook his head, eyes filled with guilt. I realized I'd made a mistake. A mistake that left my daughter terrified, unheard, alone. Where is she now? I asked again, this time through clenched teeth. In interview room 2, he said quickly. She's safe. Another officer is with her, and we're reviewing the situation again. Things changed after we separated them. Her injuries. He didn't finish the sentence. I didn't need him to. Take me to her, I said. He nodded immediately and stepped around the desk. As we walked down the long hallway, door after door, echo after echo, I could feel my pulse pounding in my ears. If the officer's reaction was this shaken, then whatever I was about to see in that room was going to break me. The officer stopped outside a gray door with a small rectangular window, the kind that only shows a sliver of what's inside. He hesitated for a moment, like he was bracing himself, then gently pushed it open. The hinges creaked softly, and as I stepped inside, my entire world tilted. Lily sat at a metal table in the corner, knees pulled up slightly, arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to hold her body together. The harsh fluorescent light washed over her face, revealing bruises that hadn't been there the last time I saw her. A purple shadow along her cheekbone. A faint red mark near her jaw. Scratches across her wrist. But it wasn't the bruises that gutted me. It was her eyes. My daughter, my brave, bright, stubborn Lily, looked up at me with a mixture of relief and devastation so raw it nearly brought me to my knees. Her lower lip trembled the second she saw me, and she inhaled sharply like she'd been holding her breath this entire time. Dad, she whispered. I crossed the room in 2 strides and pulled her into my arms before she could say another word. She collapsed into me, fingers gripping the back of my shirt like she was afraid I'd disappear if she let go. She was shaking, really shaking, and I didn't even try to hide how tight I held her. I'm here, I murmured into her hair. I've got you. You're safe now. She nodded against my chest, a broken little nod, but tears streamed down her cheeks anyway. It took her almost a minute to speak, and when she finally did, her voice cracked. I didn't do anything, Dad. I swear. I didn't touch him. I know, I said immediately. I believe you. She pulled back a little, enough for me to see her face. They didn't. They acted like I was making it up. Like I was the problem. The pain in her voice was worse than any bruise on her skin. What happened? I asked gently. She wiped her eyes with the back of her sleeve, flinching when her wrist brushed against her cheek. He was yelling, again. Mom wasn't home. He got mad because I didn't answer him fast enough. He grabbed my arm first. Then he shoved me into the wall. When I tried to leave, he grabbed me again. I told him to let go and he slapped me. I felt something deep in my chest ignite. Slow. Heavy. Dangerous. Lily continued, her voice barely holding together. He told me no one would believe me. That I'm dramatic. That Mom would side with him. So I ran outside, and I called you. Her shoulders sagged as if saying it out loud drained the last bit of strength she had. I cupped her face gently, careful not to touch the bruises. You did the right thing, Lily. You called the right person. Her eyes filled again. Are you mad at me? Mad? I shook my head, pulling her close again. No, sweetheart. I'm mad for you. Not at you. She exhaled shakily, finally allowing herself to lean into me completely. And for the first time since that phone call, I knew one thing for certain. Whatever happened next, I wasn't letting her face it alone. As Lily steadied her breath, the officer who'd escorted me in shifted uncomfortably, like he was carrying a weight he didn't know how to put down. Sir, he said softly, there's something you need to be aware of. He motioned toward the hallway. It's about her stepfather. I didn't want to leave Lily alone, but she nodded gently. It's okay, Dad. I'll be right here. Her voice still trembled, but she was trying to be strong, for both of us. I stepped out into the hall, closing the door behind me. The officer exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. When he came in earlier, he looked completely unshaken. No nerves. No anger. Not even defensiveness. It was like he rehearsed every word. Of course he did. What did he say? I asked, forcing my voice to stay level. The officer pulled out a small notebook. He told us Lily got emotional during an argument, that she lashed out when he tried to calm her down, that he only restrained her to prevent her from hurting herself. He kept repeating the same phrases. She's unstable. She needs help. This is a misunderstanding. Almost like he'd practiced them. My jaw tightened. And you believed him? He winced. Honestly, yes. At first. His shirt wasn't torn. No visible injuries. He spoke calmly, politely. Meanwhile, Lily came in crying, shaking, unable to even get through a full sentence. Of course she did. He had just been hit. Manipulators don't walk into police stations falling apart. They walk in ready to perform. And that's not all, the officer continued, lowering his voice. He showed us text messages. My stomach dropped. What kind of messages? He claimed they were from Lily. Messages that made her look aggressive. Leave me alone. Don't talk to me. I hate you. Stuff like that. He said she'd been acting out for months. I clenched my fist. Did you verify the timestamps? He hesitated. We're doing that now. Something felt off. The man had hit my daughter, lied about it, and then manufactured evidence. And what about the bruise? I asked. Did he explain that? He said she fell. Said she lost her balance when she charged at him. He even demonstrated. Calmly. The officer shook his head again. If I hadn't seen the bruising under better lighting, I might have believed him. So that was his game. Confuse the story, stay calm, paint her as irrational, overwhelm the truth with performance. Classic manipulation. He also said something else, the officer added reluctantly. What? He told us. She does this for attention. My blood went cold. Does what? I growled. Creates drama. I took a step toward him, barely holding myself back. My daughter doesn't create drama. She calls for help when she's scared. The officer nodded quickly. I know that now. But earlier, he had us fooled for a moment. Just a moment. But that moment had cost Lily her dignity, her safety, and her trust. What happens now? I asked. He straightened. Now we re-examine everything. And we bring him back in for questioning. Properly this time. Good. Because the performance was over. And the truth was about to begin. When I walked back into the interview room, Lily wiped her face quickly, like she didn't want me to see she'd been crying again. I sat down beside her, not too close, giving her space but letting her know I wasn't going anywhere. She took a deep breath, exhaled shakily and looked down at her hands that were still trembling. I need to tell you everything, she whispered. I'm listening, I said softly. She nodded, gathering the courage to say what she'd been holding inside for far too long. It started months ago, she began. Not with hitting. Just comments. Little things. He'd get angry if I didn't answer fast enough. If I stayed in my room too long. If I didn't eat dinner at the exact time he expected. I thought it was just him being strict. I didn't want to bother you. A knot formed in my throat. Lily, nothing about you bothers me. Her eyes softened but she kept going. He started checking my phone sometimes, saying it was house rules. Mom let him. He'd criticize my clothes, my grades, even how I laughed. And if I said anything back he'd get in my face. Too close. Too angry. I felt my fingers curl into fists under the table. Tonight, she swallowed hard. Mom was working late. I came home 10 minutes past the time he told me. Just 10 minutes. He was already waiting in the living room. Her voice cracked. He asked where I was. I told him I stayed after school to finish a project. He said I was lying. I wasn't. But he kept yelling. He grabbed my arm and pulled me closer. I told him to let go. I told him he was hurting me. Her hand instinctively went to her wrist where faint red marks still lingered. He pushed me into the wall. Hard. My head hit the edge of a picture frame. That's when I tried to leave. But he grabbed me again. A tear slid down her cheek. And then he slapped me. Not once. Twice. Something inside me broke clean in half. And after he hit me he said I needed to calm down before Mom got home so she wouldn't worry. He said if I told anyone he'd tell them I attacked him. That no one would believe me anyway. That I always exaggerate. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting her words sink in, each one cutting deeper than the last. So I ran, she whispered. I grabbed my backpack, ran out the front door and didn't stop running until I reached the end of the block. My hands were shaking too much to call at first, but I knew you'd pick up. I knew you'd come. I reached out and gently held her hand. You did the right thing, Lily. Everything you just told me, it proves he's been hurting you for a long time. But it ends tonight. She exhaled shakily, relief softening her shoulders. For the first time in months, she finally said the words she'd been afraid to admit. I just want to be safe again. And I made her a silent promise right then. She would be. At any cost. The door clicked softly as the officer stepped back into the room. His expression had changed, still serious but now layered with something sharper. Urgency. He cleared his throat and motioned for me to step aside with him. I squeezed Lily's hand once before joining him near the doorway. Something came up, he whispered. You need to hear this. My pulse sped up. What is it? He glanced at Lily, worn out, curled into the chair, fighting to stay brave, then lowered his voice even more. We just got a call from a neighbor on your ex-wife's street. She heard yelling earlier tonight. She said she saw your daughter run out of the house, crying and holding her face. My chest tightened. And, he added, she provided us with security footage. That changed everything. He led me out into the hallway where another officer was setting up a monitor. The tension in the air was thick enough to taste. When the video loaded, the footage was grainy but clear enough to recognize the front of the house. The timestamp matched the time Lily said she ran out. There she was, my daughter, bursting through the door with her backpack slipping off her shoulder, her face red, eyes wide with panic. She stumbled slightly, grabbed the railing for balance and then sprinted into the street. No aggression. No attacking. No dramatic behavior. Just fear. Pure fear. The officer paused the video. This completely contradicts what her stepfather told us. I swallowed the anger climbing my throat. What about him? Do you have footage of him? He nodded. We're pulling footage from the neighbor's second camera. It faces the driveway. If his story is true, he should have come out looking injured or shaken. He clicked to the next clip. The stepdad emerged seconds after Lily ran, walking calmly, shirt perfectly intact, expression cold, almost annoyed. He didn't chase her. He didn't check on her. He didn't look distressed. Instead, he pulled out his phone, stared at it for a moment, then walked back inside like someone irritated by an inconvenience. The officer exhaled. This does not match a man who was attacked. It was the first time tonight I saw certainty in his eyes rather than hesitation. What happens now? I asked. We bring him back in, he said firmly. And this time we question him based on evidence, not performance. As we walked back toward Lily's room, the weight in my chest shifted. Not gone, not yet. But something had cracked open. The truth was finally pushing its way to the surface. And the lies that protected her stepfather were beginning to crumble. I had barely stepped back into the room when the hallway filled with hurried footsteps. Sharp, loud, frantic. A moment later the door swung open and my ex-wife stood there, breathless, eyes wild with worry, and something else. Bigger. Lily, she gasped, rushing toward our daughter. But Lily shrank back. That one small movement, barely a flinch, hit her mother harder than any words could. She froze mid-step, confusion clouding her face. Sweetheart, what happened? Why are you here? Why didn't you call me? Lily's voice cracked. Because you wouldn't have believed me. Her mother blinked as if slapped. What? Of course I would. I stepped between them gently. Don't. Let her talk. But she turned on me instantly. Don't tell me how to talk to my own daughter. You've always tried to make me look like a bad mother. This isn't about you, I said firmly. This is about what happened tonight. She folded her arms tightly, defensive walls rising fast. I already spoke with him. He emphasized him like it meant something. He said Lily got upset, became dramatic, and he was only trying to calm her down. Lily let out a small, pained laugh, a sound too bitter for someone her age. Mom, she whispered, he hit me. My ex-wife stiffened. Her eyes darted to the bruise on Lily's cheek. A bruise she somehow hadn't noticed until now. But instead of shock or horror, her expression flickered with denial, like she was trying to rearrange reality into a version that hurt less. Honey, he said you fell. I didn't fall, Lily said sharply, voice trembling. He slapped me. He shoved me into the wall. And you know he's been yelling at me for months. You know he gets angry. You've seen it. Her mother's lips parted, but no words came out. Because it was true and we all knew it. He said you've been disrespectful, she tried weakly. That you've been acting out. He said. He lied. Lily cried, her voice breaking apart. Why can't you believe me? Her mother's face cracked. Not fully, not yet, but the first fracture appeared. Her eyes shone with confusion, fear, and the painful realization that maybe the truth wasn't what she wanted to believe. The officer stepped forward. Ma'am, we have security footage of your daughter running out of the house in distress. And your husband showing no signs of being attacked. She went pale. What? She whispered. There's more, he said. And we need to speak with you separately. For the first time that night she looked at Lily, not with denial, but with dawning fear. Fear that she hadn't protected her daughter. Fear that she had trusted the wrong person. Fear that the truth was bigger and darker than she ever allowed herself to see. The officer led Lily and her mother to another room, leaving me standing in the hallway alone. But I didn't stay alone for long. A familiar voice echoed from around the corner, cold, steady, and dripping with false calm. There he is. I turned and there he stood, her stepfather. Hands in his pockets. Shirt perfectly tucked. Face smooth, controlled. Like he was walking into a business meeting instead of an investigation. His eyes met mine with a smugness that sent a chill down my spine. You've caused quite a scene tonight, he said casually. Dragging her into this. Blowing things out of proportion. I walked toward him slowly. You touched my daughter. He smirked. She attacked me first. I stopped just a few feet away. The overhead lights flickered, humming like they could sense the tension between us. You and I both know she didn't, I said quietly. Oh right, he chuckled. Because your precious little girl is perfect. She can't possibly lose her temper. She can't possibly be dramatic. His voice hardened. You've always spoiled her. My jaw tightened. And you've always wanted to control her. That's the difference between us. His eyes sharpened, darkening. She needed discipline. Something you never gave her. I stepped even closer. Discipline isn't grabbing her. Or pushing her. Or hitting her when her mother isn't home. For the first time his expression cracked. Just slightly, just enough to reveal the truth lurking beneath the polished exterior. "You don't know what you're talking about," he snapped. "Oh, I do," I said. "And so does the camera outside your house." He froze. Just for a breath. Just for a flicker of a moment. But it was enough. "You didn't look like a man who'd been attacked," I continued. "You walked outside calm as a Sunday afternoon. Checked your phone. Didn't have a scratch on you. Didn't look shaken. Didn't even try to check on her after she ran out." His jaw twitched. "You think that proves something?" "Yes," I said. "It proves you're lying. And it proves you weren't afraid of her." He chuckled again, but this time it was forced, thin, cracking at the edges. "You can't prove what happened inside that house." "But you can," I replied. "Because people like you always slip." He stepped forward, lowering his voice to a near whisper. "She is ruining my marriage. And you're helping her." I leaned in. "No. You ruined your marriage the first time you put your hands on a child." Before he could respond, the officer appeared behind us. "Sir," he said firmly to the stepfather, "we need you to come with us for further questioning." The stepfather glared at me one last time, anger, fear, and panic bleeding through the cracks of his calm mask. "This isn't over," he muttered. But he was wrong. Because for the first time tonight, his control was slipping. And the truth was finally catching up to him. The officer guided the stepfather down the hallway toward an interrogation room, his expression now tight and strained. I followed a few steps behind, not close enough to intervene, but close enough to make sure he didn't slip away from the truth again. The tension in the station had shifted. Before it was uncertainty. Now it was something much heavier, like the air itself knew a mask was about to fall off. Inside the small observation room, the lead officer motioned for me to stand behind the one-way glass. "You'll want to see this," he said quietly. On the other side of the glass, the stepfather sat with his hands clasped, posture perfect, breathing steady. He still looked calm. Too calm. Like a man who'd gotten away with lies before and expected to do it again. The officer entered the interrogation room, dropped a folder on the table and sat down across from him. "We've reviewed new evidence," he said. The stepfather raised an eyebrow. "Evidence of what?" The officer opened the folder. "Your wife's neighbor provided us with more than just footage. She gave us screenshots of text messages your stepdaughter sent her earlier this month." He blinked, slowly, confusion flickering for a split second before he masked it. "These messages," the officer continued, sliding a printed page across the table, "show your stepdaughter expressing fear. Saying she didn't feel safe at home." His jaw tightened. "Teenagers exaggerate." "Maybe," the officer said, "but teenagers don't usually send pictures like these." He pulled out a second page, photos Lily had sent privately to the neighbor. Light bruising on her wrist. A faint red imprint around her arm. A tiny, almost invisible scratch near her temple. The stepfather's composure cracked. His eyes darted downward for 1 second too long. "You have an explanation?" the officer asked. She bruises easily," he muttered. "And she bumps into things." The officer didn't respond. Instead, he placed another sheet on the table. "Your deleted messages," he said. "We recovered them from your phone backup." This time, real panic flashed across the stepfather's face. The messages were short but damning. "She needs to learn respect. I'm tired of her attitude. She pushed me to this. She won't talk back again." The room went silent. He swallowed hard. "You're taking those out of context." The officer leaned in. "Then give us the context." The stepfather stared at the pages. The bruises, the texts, the timestamps, and for the first time his breathing changed. Faster. Even. Because evidence doesn't lie. And the truth he tried so hard to hide was finally spilling into the light from behind the one-way glass. I watched the stepfather's mask begin to slip. Slowly at first, then all at once. His shoulders, previously stiff with confidence, now sagged just slightly. His eyes darted between the printed screenshots and the officer's calm, unblinking stare. The room felt like it was shrinking around him. "You're twisting this," he said, voice tight. "You people don't understand what it's like raising a teenage girl. She pushes buttons. She lies. She told us what happened," the officer interrupted evenly. "And the evidence supports her. She's manipulating you," he snapped, finally showing the panic beneath his cool exterior. She hates me. She always has. The officer didn't flinch. She feared you. That's not the same thing. A pulse flickered at the stepfather's temple. He clenched his jaw, fighting to regain control. You're taking the word of a child over mine? We're taking the word of a victim, the officer replied. That hit him hard. He leaned back, exhaling sharply. You don't know what she's capable of, he muttered almost to himself. She lies. She throws things. She becomes hysterical over nothing. The officer slid one more document across the table. Then explain this. It was the medical intake from the station. A basic injury assessment. The bruises on Lily's arm were in the shape of fingers. The mark on her cheek was consistent with an open hand strike, not a fall. Her wrist showed signs of being gripped tightly. He stared at it, blinking, not speaking. The officer continued softly but firmly. You said she attacked you. But there are no defensive scratches on your arms. No torn clothing. No bruising. No signs of a struggle on your end. He swallowed hard. Things got out of hand, he finally muttered. The officer raised an eyebrow. Meaning? She was yelling, he said, voice lower now. And she tried to run past me. He paused, rubbing his forehead. I grabbed her arm. Maybe harder than I meant to. The room fell silent. And the slap? The officer asked quietly. He hesitated. She wouldn't stop talking. She kept arguing and look, I wasn't trying to hurt her. I just needed her to calm down. A confession. Not the full truth, not yet, but the first crack in the wall he'd built. The officer leaned back, pen tapping lightly against his notepad. So you admit you put your hands on her? He winced, realizing too late what he'd said. I admit I reacted poorly. But she's difficult. Her mother lets her get away with everything. Someone has to maintain order in that house. Order. That was what he called control. From behind the glass, my hands curled into fists, but I forced myself to stay still. Because now he was unraveling. His lies were losing shape. And the truth he'd tried so hard to bury was finally forcing its way out. Piece by piece, crack by crack. A soft knock on the interview room door signaled the next step. A female officer entered, her expression gentle but firm. Mr. Carson, she said, the medic is here to complete your daughter's exam. It's standard procedure for cases like this. Lily stiffened instantly, shoulders curling inward. She looked smaller somehow, like the thought of being examined would expose every bruise she had tried for months to hide. I moved closer, lowering my voice so only she could hear. I'll be right beside you, I said. She nodded, eyes glossy with fear she didn't have the strength to voice. The medic, a calm middle-aged woman named Dr. Hayes, guided Lily into a private room. The lights were warmer here, softer than the harsh fluorescence in the station's hallways. Still, Lily's hands trembled as she climbed up onto the exam bed. I stood just a few feet away, close enough to give her reassurance, far enough not to invade her space. Lily, Dr. Hayes began softly, I'm going to check your injuries. You're safe here. Nothing we do leaves this room unless you want it to, except the parts that help protect you. Lily swallowed. Okay. The doctor started with her arms. When she gently pressed near the wrist, Lily winced, just a small, sharp flinch, but it was enough. Dr. Hayes's expression shifted, becoming more serious. This is from being grabbed, she murmured, mostly to her notes. Not an accidental bump. She moved to the bruise near Lily's cheek. The shape of it, open palm, curved fingers, told a story no lie could erase. This, the doctor said carefully, is consistent with a slap. Recent. Lily looked down, shame tightening her throat as if she believed she had done something wrong. I stepped closer. This isn't your fault, I whispered. Not any of it. Her eyes met mine, glassy and exhausted, but something inside her seemed to soften. Like she was finally allowing herself to believe me. Dr. Hayes continued her evaluation, noting faint older bruises along Lily's upper arm, discoloration she tried to hide. How long ago did these appear? She asked gently. Lily hesitated. A few weeks. I didn't tell anyone. My heart twisted. Because now I could see it, the pattern. Small marks. Little warnings. Pieces of a truth she had been too afraid to say aloud. Dr. Hayes finished her exam and stepped back. Her injuries support her account, she said. There's no medical evidence of her attacking anyone. No defensive wounds on her hands. But there is clear indication of physical restraint and assault. Each word felt like both a wound and a relief. Proof. Finally, undeniable proof. Lily let out a long, shaky breath. Does this mean they'll believe me now? I took her hand gently, squeezing it. They have to, I said. Because now the truth isn't just your voice, it's written on your skin. And for the first time that night, Lily didn't look afraid. She looked seen. When Lily and I stepped out of the medical room, her mother was standing in the hallway, arms wrapped around herself, pacing in tight circles. Her eyes were red, not from anger this time, but from something colder. Something heavier. Guilt. The moment she saw us, she froze. Her gaze dropped to the bruise on Lily's cheek, then to the faint marks along her wrist. Marks she had missed, or ignored for months. Lily, she whispered, voice trembling. My daughter stiffened beside me, her body instinctively inching closer to my side. Her mother noticed the shift and flinched, like the distance between them physically hurt her. I didn't know, she said, shaking her head. I swear I didn't know. Lily swallowed hard. You didn't want to know. That sentence landed like a blade. Her mother pressed a hand to her mouth, eyes filling with fresh tears. He told me you were exaggerating, that you were emotional, that you were being disrespectful. She broke off, tears spilling down her cheeks. I believed him. I believed him over my own daughter. Lily didn't say anything. He didn't have to. Her silence spoke louder than any accusation. Her mother stepped closer, stopping just a few feet away. Why didn't you come to me? Why didn't you tell me he put his hands on you? Lily looked up, eyes glossy. Because you always defended him. Every time. It didn't matter what he said or did. You took his side. I was scared you'd do it again. Her mother's face crumpled. I failed you, she whispered. I was supposed to protect you. And instead I let him hurt you. The hallway went quiet except for her broken breaths. I thought he was good for us, she continued shakily. He was so kind at first. So patient. I thought moving on, building a new life would help all of us. I convinced myself that every red flag was just stress, or misunderstandings. She looked directly at Lily, really looked at her, for the first time that night. And you tried to tell me, didn't you? All those little hints. The quiet dinners. The way you avoided the living room. I ignored every sign. Lily's voice cracked. Mom, I just wanted you to see me. Her mother covered her mouth again as another sob escaped. I see you now, baby. I see everything. And I promise, this will never happen again. I will never let anyone hurt you. Not ever. Not even for a second. For a moment no one moved. Then slowly Lily stepped forward. Not into an embrace. Not yet. But close enough. Close enough that forgiveness wasn't there, but the possibility of healing was. And for the first time her mother didn't look defensive. She looked devastated. But determined. Because denial had shattered. And all that was left was truth. The hallway outside the interrogation rooms felt different now. Heavier but somehow clearer. Officers moved with purpose instead of hesitation. The entire station seemed to shift once the evidence surfaced. Once Lily's truth finally drowned out his lies. A few minutes later the lead officer approached us. His expression was firm, controlled, but beneath it I saw something else. Anger. Not at us. At him. Mr. Carson, he said, we've concluded the preliminary investigation. Based on the footage, the medical exam, the recovered messages, and his own statements, we're moving forward. Lily's mother stiffened. Moving forward with what? The officer took a slow breath. With an arrest. Those words were a release. Quiet, powerful, necessary. He gestured toward the interrogation room. Your husband is currently being detained. We've informed him he's under arrest for assaulting a minor and providing false statements during an investigation. Lily's breath hitched, her hand instinctively clutching my sleeve. I squeezed her hand gently. It's okay, I whispered. This is what should happen. An officer opened the door across the hall and there he was, the stepfather being let out in handcuffs. For the first time tonight the calm mask was gone. His face was pale, jaw clenched, eyes darting between all of us. When his gaze landed on Lily he sneered. Look at what you're doing. You're ruining everything. Before I could step forward, the lead officer cut him off sharply. Sir, you have the right to remain silent. I suggest you use it. But he didn't stop. You lied, he hissed at her. You always. No, Lily said suddenly. Her voice was soft but steady. Everyone froze. No, she repeated louder this time. I didn't ruin anything. You did. You hurt me. You scared me. And you're not going to do it again. The stepfather stared at her, shocked, furious, cornered. But there was nothing left for him to twist, nothing left for him to manipulate. The truth surrounded him, closing in from every angle. The officers escorted him toward the exit. As he passed her mother, he growled, "You're making a mistake." Her mother didn't flinch. "My only mistake was trusting you." For a moment, the station fell into a heavy silence, like everyone was letting out a breath they'd been holding for too long. The officer turned back to us. "We'll be filing the official charges tonight. You've done the right thing coming here." Lily nodded, tears welling, but not from fear this time, from relief. Real deep relief. "Can we go now?" she asked quietly. "Yes," the officer said gently. "You're safe now." And for the first time all night, she believed it. The sky outside the police station was beginning to lighten, a pale gray hint of dawn breaking through the night. It felt strange, how the world could look so peaceful after everything that had happened. Lily stood beside me on the sidewalk, wrapped in my jacket, her hair messy, her face tired but softer, lighter, almost like she could breathe again. Her mother joined us a moment later, eyes still swollen but steadier now. For once, there was no tension between us. No old resentment. Just two parents shaken awake by the same nightmare. "I'll follow in my car," she said quietly. "We should go home. All of us." Lily hesitated. Home meant confronting the place where she had been hurt. A house filled with memories that now held shadows. She glanced at me, uncertainty flickering across her face. "You don't have to go back tonight," I said softly. "You can stay with me. For as long as you want." Her eyes softened with relief. "Can I?" "Of course," I said, brushing a strand of hair from her cheek. "You never have to ask." Her mother stepped closer, swallowing hard. "Lily, I know you're hurting, and I know I failed you, but I want to make things right. I'm filing for a restraining order first thing this morning. I'll have him removed from the house before you ever step foot in it again." Lily didn't respond immediately. She simply nodded, a small, cautious nod that wasn't forgiveness but wasn't rejection either. Her mother accepted it with quiet understanding. As we walked to my car, Lily slipped her hand into mine. Not like a child seeking protection, but like someone who had been drowning and finally reached the surface. The drive was silent at first. She stared out the window, watching streetlights flicker past, her breathing steady, her shoulders slowly relaxing. Halfway home, she whispered, "Do you think things will ever feel normal again?" I shook my head gently. "Not the old normal. But a new one? Yes. A better one. One where you're safe. One where your voice is heard." She leaned back in her seat, a faint smile touching her lips. "I'd like that." When we reached my house, she walked inside like she was stepping into warmth after being out in the cold. She set her backpack down, took a long breath and said, "It feels peaceful." "It's yours too," I told her. "For as long as you need." Later, as I made her tea and she curled up on the couch under a blanket, she looked at me with a mixture of exhaustion and gratitude. "Dad," she murmured. "Yeah. Thank you. For coming. For believing me." I sat beside her, brushing my hand gently across her hair. "There is nothing in this world you could tell me that I wouldn't believe. You're my daughter. My job is to protect you. Always." Her eyes softened and she rested her head on my shoulder. Outside, the first real light of morning broke across the windows. Soft, warm, hopeful. A new day. A new beginning. And for the first time in a long time, he felt safe. He felt heard. He felt home.